Hey guys, for this lesson we are going to be focusing on some different things we need to know about shading. So let's go ahead and jump on in. There are many types of shading techniques that artists use, like hatching, cross-hatching, blending, rendering, squiggly, and contour hatching. When you are shading, you are adding light and dark tones to create the depiction of depth. In this example, our 2D flat circle is starting to look like a three-dimensional sphere. It's starting to have form through the use of shading techniques. It's helping to make that item look rounded and not flat. We are going to be using a blending shading technique in our art lesson today. We want to practice our shading by creating a value scale using shading. A value scale shows us all the ranges of darks to light. The value scale in this example organizes our values ranging from black to white, with several shades of gray in between. These shades of gray are what's going to make up the illusion of depth in our drawing, and we are going to practice before we begin our artwork. I have a practice shading worksheet that you can print out or create your own copy at home if you do not have a printer. We are going to practice shading using a basic number 2 pencil as well as a black colored pencil. You want to focus on your craftsmanship during your shading practice. You'll see the scale at the top, 1 through 4. Our goal is to shade at a 4. Shading at a number 4 does not mean that you are always coloring really dark and pushing down hard with your pencil. Shading at a 4 means that you are watching the way that you are using your pencil. You're not going back and forth in all different directions. Try to keep your pencil in the same pathway. You want to make sure that it's neat and tidy. At the top, you will see an area to practice shading light, medium, and dark with your pencil and black colored pencil. At the bottom, you will see creating a value scale using both of those items. Press down harder to create darker tones and ease up on the pressure of your pencil to create lighter tones. Before you can begin the art lesson, you do need to complete the shading practice. Go ahead and finish this worksheet, and then you can resume the video when you are done. We are focusing on shading for our art lesson because we are looking at the art made by the artist Tim Burton. Timothy Walter Burton is an American filmmaker, animator, and artist. He is best known for his gothic fantasy films such as Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Dark Shadows, and Frankenweenie. Many of these videos and movies I'm sure you have seen before. Tim Burton has a very unique style that makes his movies stand out from many of the other animated movies that we have available to us today. Take a few moments to study these characters from some of his most popular animated movies. What similarities do you see? What differences do you see? How are his characters unique? Take a minute to really study these characters. If this means you need to pause the video, you can. Did you notice the similar items that these characters have? Like their long skinny necks, big eyes, tiny noses, worried faces? What about their shading? Did you notice where he used a lot of heavy shading on these characters? Particularly, I see a lot of shading around the eyes of each character. Does the shading help to make these characters more dramatic and really reinforce his style? Absolutely, and we can even take his style and apply it to other characters. Here you can see some popular characters drawn in Tim Burton's style, like Anna and Elsa, Jigglypuff, and even Ursula. We can still recognize these characters even though they don't look like their original form because there's still character traits that look like their original form, like the Ursula tentacles, Anna and Elsa's outfits, Jigglypuff's color and shape, but they've been tweaked to look like Tim Burton characters through applying some of his ideas for his characters, like the big eyes, the skinny necks, and the worried looks. We will be drawing our own portraits in Tim Burton's style, so let's go ahead and jump on in with the very first steps we need to begin our project. Step 1 is draw the frame that your portrait will go inside of. I have included a think sheet that includes different style frames that you can use when you create your frame. This think sheet is downloadable as a PDF document. You do not have to draw one of the frames from my think sheet. You can come up with your own unique frame. These are just some ideas to get you started. Start with a light sketch. You want to sketch your frame lightly using a number 2 pencil on your paper. Next, I would like for you to complete the line tracing sheet that is downloadable as a PDF. You want to practice tracing your lines because you are going to be using a Sharpie in the next step to go over your pencil lines, and we're trying to make sure we have good, clean craftsmanship skills. After you have completed the line tracing practice, then move on to tracing over your pencil lines on your paper with a Sharpie marker. You can use your eraser to get rid of any pencil lines. And finally, use a number 2 pencil and black colored pencils to add shading. Think about areas where you can add light and dark tones. And this will be where we are stopping for today. At this point, you should be stopping the video, working on all the steps that we just talked about, and then we will pick up from this point in our next class. Do not move past this point until we get to the next art rotation. See you guys then. Welcome back to working on our Tim Burton inspired portraits. This is day 2 of this lesson. We are now going to move on to drawing our portrait inside of our picture frames that we created last class. I do have some idea sheets to help you guys get started working on this. I have our Tim Burton think sheet that kind of shows you some of the different ideas you can use for parts of your portrait, as well as a basic idea sheet about different hairstyles in case you're having a hard time figuring out how you want to put your hair on your portrait. Both of those sheets are downloadable PDF documents that you can use at home. So let's go ahead and talk about the steps for creating our portrait. Begin your portrait by starting with a light pencil sketch. You want to use pencil in case you make a mistake. You can erase your pencil lines as long as they are drawn lightly. If you press down too hard, your pencil lines are going to be difficult to erase. Next, use a Sharpie to trace over all of your pencil lines. Just like we did before for our picture frame, remember to use good craftsmanship skills and to go slowly so you can trace over those lines neatly. Use an eraser to get rid of any pencil lines that you see poking out from behind your Sharpie that you will no longer need. And finally, our last step is use a number 2 pencil and a black and white color pencil, as well as a white oil pastel to add shading and highlights. We are including the white oil pastel because we're working on toned paper, and the white oil pastel helps to make that color pop better than our white color pencil. The white color pencil is still useful for lighter white tones, but for really bright whites, you're going to want to use your oil pastel. When you are shading, remember the value scales that you made. Think about the darks and the lights. Where do you need to put dark tones and where do you need to put light tones? Should you have shading around the eyes, around the mouth, the cheekbones? Make sure you are using that value scale from last time to help judge how dark or how light you need to go. You can use my picture as an example to look at for some shading ideas, as well as going back and looking at his characters that we showed earlier in this video to pull some inspiration. And this is where we're going to stop for class today. At this point, you should be stopping the video. Do not move past this point. You should be working on your portrait, and we will resume next time I see you guys. So again, stop here. Do not keep going until next time. See you then. Welcome back to day 3 of working on our Tim Burton portraits. So today will be our final day working on our portraits, and our final step is adding in details. Before we begin to add details, if you need to catch up on any parts that you did not finish from day 1 and day 2, you can, and then you can jump back here to our final step, or step 3, which is adding details. In our final step, we are going to be adding in some fun, spooky details behind our portraits to kind of help give it that more Tim Burton feel, that kind of creepy, fun look. So I included a think sheet that is a downloadable PDF that you can use to help inspire what you're going to add to your portrait. If you have your own ideas, no worries, you do not have to use my think sheet. You can totally come up with your own ideas. And don't forget, you can also include shading on the details that you add to your portrait. So this is our final step for this lesson. Take today to wrap up any of the pieces you did not finish from before, your picture frame, your portrait, outlining, and then finally adding your details. You have the remainder of time today in art class to finish these up. When you are completely finished, don't forget to take a picture and send it over to me so I can see your awesome masterpiece. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson.